Imagine walking down a street at night when suddenly the streetlight above you flickers and dies, only to spring back to life as you walk past. A coincidence, obviously. But what if it happened again? And then again, and again? What if your very presence seems to affect not just streetlights, but computers, watches, and other electronic devices? So today we're going to dive into one of the most puzzling modern mysteries, the phenomenon of streetlight interference, and the people known as sliders. These individuals appear to possess an inexplicable ability to influence electrical systems, often without their conscious control. But is this just merely a series of coincidences? Or could it be evidence of something far more extraordinary, perhaps even connecting to UFO encounters and other paranormal activity? Hi folks, I'm Johnny and welcome to The Oddest. So join me as we explore the fascinating world of human electrical interference, where science meets the supernatural and the ordinary becomes extraordinary. When it comes to UFOs and the paranormal, weird electrical phenomena are often reported, sometimes as a direct part of the strange events and other times as a side effect of encounters with mysterious objects or beings. But there's another fascinating twist. A growing number of people seem to interact with electricity in unusual ways, often without realising it and without having any clear connection to paranormal experiences. One phenomenon tied to this is called streetlight interference, or SLI. People who experience it are known as sliders, and they're easily one of the most intriguing groups out there. We'll take a closer look at this strange phenomenon on its own, but we'll also explore how it might tie into UFO activity. Could understanding streetlight interference bring us closer to unravelling UFO mysteries? For instance, do sliders naturally possess unusual energy levels similar to those reported in people who have experienced alien abduction? Or is it possible that sliders might have been abducted themselves without even realising it? In a mystery as enigmatic as this, both ideas do seem equally plausible. So, just what is the streetlight interference phenomenon?
Let's see if it happens. Oh, it just happened. Every fucking morning.
This unique ability can show up in many forms, but what first brought attention to the group, now known as sliders, was a phenomenon called streetlight interference, or SLI. Essentially, it's the ability to turn streetlights on or off just by walking or driving beneath them. In countless reports, people have described streetlights suddenly going out as they pass underneath them, only to turn back on moments later once they've moved away from the area, whether they're doing it subconsciously or not. Unsurprisingly, many theories have been proposed to explain these strange occurrences. Some point out that all our thoughts and actions, even those happening subconsciously, are essentially electrical signals and impulses. See, normally these impulses are confined to our own bodies, but researchers studying SLI have wondered, could some people generate electrical energy that extends beyond their body? And if so, could this external energy disrupt other electronics, like streetlights? Several studies have explored streetlight interference and how a person's subconscious might just influence electrical devices, including computers. However, much more research is needed here, ideally involving both scientists and paranormal experts. One particularly fascinating detail is the apparent link between a person's mood or emotional state and their ability to affect or even control electrical energy. It's not surprising that many dismiss these events as nothing unusual, even with more people coming forward to share their experiences with SLI. Skeptics often chalk it up to confirmation bias, suggesting it's just a coincidence when a streetlight happens to flicker or turn off at that exact moment someone walks underneath it. David Barlow, a physics and astrophysics graduate, argues that people are simply seeing patterns in random noise. He goes on to explain that it's rare for a light to turn on or off as you walk past it. So when this does happen, it feels shocking. Get it? Shocking. If it happens a few times in a row, then it starts to seem like something more is going on. Not everyone shares his sceptical view. The late paranormal researcher Hilary Evans took these claims pretty seriously, documenting numerous cases and even founding the SLI Data Exchange to gather as much evidence as possible. Shortly before his passing in 2011, he stated that it's clear from the letters I receive that these are healthy, normal people. They just happen to have an unusual ability. It's a gift, though not necessarily one that they would choose to have. When I was researching this story, I stumbled upon an article on the website medium.com called Streetlight Interference, Supernatural Phenomenon or Confirmation Bias. I'll let you decide. The writer, Jennifer Brown, offered a history of strange occurrences throughout her life that eventually led her to discover that she was a slider. I'll leave a link to the full article in the description below. After reading her article, I sent her a wee message to let her know that I enjoyed her article, but also to share my own personal story about this phenomenon. So listen, just hear me out before y'all start deciding that Johnny is bat crap crazy. I mean, I am, but that's beside the point. So it was about 1999, I was 20 years old, and I was crashing at my girlfriend's house one night. I was sitting up in bed reading, and I think the book was something like the Encyclopedia of All Things Paranormal, or it was something like that anyway. There was a section in this book about SLI, and I was thoroughly intrigued. As my girlfriend was getting ready for bed, I would read small excerpts to her. Of course, she didn't share my wonderment and simply rolled her eyes. But then I said jokingly, "Watch this," and I stared at the bedside lamp with an exaggerated and silly look on my face, when all of a sudden, the bulb blew. Of course we both shat our pants, and she immediately told me to stop reading that stuff and go and get a new bulb. Although I'm fairly sure her language was a bit more colourful than that though. In any case, we were fairly level-headed and we knew it was just a pure coincidence. However, there are people out there that when this occurs time after time, we need to reconsider that these maybe aren't just mere coincidences. Right, anyway, back to the article. So Jennifer recalled in an incident from 1988 when she was walking along a path, she noticed the street lamp flicker off the moment she passed underneath it, only to switch back on a few seconds later. At first, she thought that it was odd, but noticed that the paving slab beneath the lamp was a little bit wobbly. She assumed that the loose connection under the slab was causing the issue. However, as she observed others walking over the same slab, well, the light stayed on without any interruptions, leaving her a bit puzzled. Jennifer didn't think much more about the incident for a few days, but when she walked under the same street lamp again, she was stunned to see it go out at the exact same moment when she passed underneath it, just like before. This time though, the wobbly pavement slab had been repaired, so she could no longer blame it on a loose connection. She paused and looked around, eventually spotting a security camera aimed in her direction. Reasoning it out, she told herself that the security team might be turning the lamp off manually to get a clearer view of anyone passing by late at night. That explanation actually seemed logical enough, and for about a year, nothing unusual happened. Then, out of nowhere, the strange street lamp activity started again. After moving to Germany to continue her studies, Jennifer obviously missed her boyfriend, friends and home, but she quickly settled in and made new friends. Despite this, she often found herself alone in her solitary lodgings, so she would take nighttime walks along the quiet streets to clear her mind. One evening, as she was strolling past a historic wall with an old tower, she noticed one of the streetlights above her flicker and go out. She just kept walking, and then a few steps later, the light flickered back on. Jennifer quickly scanned her surroundings and noticed a security camera mounted on the wall, pointing in the general direction of the streetlight. Once again, she had convinced herself that the security guards in Germany were just like the ones back home in Scotland, likely turning off the lamp to get a better look at whoever was passing by. Over the next few months, she walked under that same streetlight multiple times, and every time it went out. Eventually, she started to feel like the security guards were specifically watching her, which made her a little bit paranoid. When Jennifer returned to Scotland in 1990, the strange occurrences continued to follow her. As she walked around at night, she noticed more and more streetlights turning off as she passed underneath them. With these incidents happening in different places, she actually began to doubt her earlier theory about the security guards. The whole thing left her confused and uneasy. But when the internet arrived in the mid-90s, Jennifer finally started to uncover the truth about what she had been experiencing. As Jennifer dug deeper online, she realised that she wasn't alone in having these strange, unsettling accounts. In fact, she learned that there was a term of people just like her, sliders. Even more surprising was the amount of research that had been done on this phenomenon. The study suggested that some individuals might emit a subconscious electrical impulse, which can affect electrical devices, particularly streetlights. Jennifer also discovered that these abilities seemed to be strongest when the person was stressed, anxious, or experiencing intense emotions. She found it interesting that people with this effect on these streetlights sometimes also caused issues with other types of electronics. Her own boyfriend, for example, had often joked with her that she had a knack for messing up his computer code just by pressing the return key. The more Jennifer learned about other sliders, the less her ability seemed to trouble her. And incidents of streetlights turning off when she was around, well, it started to decrease, eventually almost disappearing altogether. However, when she moved to a new town a few years later and once again had to make new friends, she noticed her emotions became more heightened. So, as before, one evening, while out with her new friends, she shared her unusual ability to switch off streetlights just by walking underneath them. Sure enough, later that night, with her friend watching, a streetlight flickered out as she passed underneath. We might wonder if the added stress of the moving and the challenges of making new friends maybe triggered the return of an ability that had seemed dormant for so long. In the end, Jennifer never fully understood her strange ability, and unlike some others we'll look at soon, she never gained control over it. She admitted that while none of this is scientific evidence, and with time, she's even started to wonder if it could all be explained by confirmation bias. She still found herself questioning what caused those bizarre encounters. Jennifer Brown is far from the only person with such abilities, whether controlled or not. In April of 2012, the article in the Standard featured an experience of a 38-year-old called Debbie Wolfe from Telescombe Cliffs in Brighton in the United Kingdom. Along with turning streetlights off as she walked underneath them, Debbie also had the ability to mess with digital clocks, causing them to go haywire, and even managed to make her freezer defrost several times.
I can give out electricity to people. I can blow light bulbs, change volumes, really just affect anything that's around me that's electrical. So.
Like Jennifer, Debbie admitted that she had no control over her ability. She explained it by saying, "It happens when I'm stressed or when I'm chewing something over in my mind." She also shared that these events occurred frequently and had a significant impact on her daily life. For example, she could only use wind-up alarm clocks because digital ones would always scramble, and she would quickly drain the batteries in devices like remote controls. Debbie even mentioned causing a series of street lamps to blow while riding by them on a motorbike, and pointed out that the lights outside every home she had lived in were always faulty. Despite this potentially hazardous ability, Debbie worked as a pathology support officer at the Royal Sussex Hospital in Brighton. While she hadn't caused any issues with any of the hospital equipment yet, one can only imagine the concern that might arise.
It's quite obvious from the letters I get that these people are perfectly healthy, normal people. It's just they've got some kind of ability. It's like the ability that Mozart had to compose music, just a gift they've got. It may not be a gift they would like to have. A lot of the gifts we have we would rather not have. But it's something that isn't going to hurt people. It's not going to do you any harm, it's not going to do anybody else any harm. And you may even find that it's actually entertaining, and you may even be able to use it for some, positive purpose.
While Jennifer Brown's and Debbie Wolf's experiences are among the most detailed and fascinating, many others have also shared their encounters, contributing to the database that we mentioned earlier. One such individual, just known as Bradley, he explained that whenever he felt down or depressed, he noticed his encounters with street lamps and other electronics seemed to increase. He recalled that even as a 9-year-old boy, although he didn't yet understand the emotional connection, he remembered streetlights changing colour from a warm yellow-orange to a cold blue as he walked underneath them. As Bradley would get older, he would then be diagnosed with manic depression, and it was during this time that he made the connection between his emotional state and the changes in these streetlight colours. He explained that when he was feeling particularly down, the interference would seem to happen randomly and without warning. However, when his mood was better and, if he concentrated, he could change the streetlights to a warm peach colour. This would suggest that, at least to some extent, Bradley learned to control whatever ability he had. For some people, being a slider goes far beyond just affecting streetlights. Many report experiencing all kinds of electrical disturbances, like devices switching on and off around them, or light bulbs blowing as they enter a room. Others mention the volume on their TVs, radios or CD players randomly rising and falling, or even the channels changing on their own. Additionally, many have reported digital watches stopping entirely, or the magnetic strips in their credit cards becoming corrupted. One person who seemed to affect electronic equipment was Sarah, who discovered her unusual ability during a series of laser treatments on her neck. Over the course of multiple appointments, she found that the laser equipment malfunctioned and stopped working on no less than 6 separate occasions. Sarah also noticed other strange occurrences throughout her life. For instance, when she visited a science museum, she noticed that she was having an odd effect on the electronic equipment inside. After studying her condition, Sarah concluded that she generated more electricity than an average person, perhaps even storing energy that was released without her being able to control it. Some people believe that the key to understanding the mysteries of SLI lies in exploring the paranormal world. For instance, they suggest that unknown energy fields which are beyond our current understanding might be interacting with streetlights and other electrical devices. They also point out that some individuals seem to have the ability to control these speculative energy fields. A few researchers even propose that there could be a link to supernatural forces or entities, with these abilities being used as a way to communicate. In fact, some theories suggest that sliders might act as a kind of bridge between our world and the spirit realm. On the other hand, many people think the answers to SLI are more down to earth, though still quite fascinating. These individuals argue that the sensitive electronics and sensors in these devices, like streetlights, could be manipulated by the electromagnetic fields that are produced by people, possibly without them even realising it. As we've seen, the phenomenon of SLI remains one of those captivating mysteries that sits at the crossroads of science and the unexplained. Whether these sliders are channeling unknown energies, manifesting subconscious electrical impulses, or perhaps even experiencing something connected to extraterrestrial encounters? Well, their experiences challenge our understanding of human potential and our interaction with the world around us. In an age where we're increasingly surrounded by electronic devices, perhaps these individuals are unknowingly showing us that the relationship between human consciousness and electricity is far more complex than we ever imagined. I mean, what do you think? Could you be a slider without even knowing it? Share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Until next time, please stay safe out there, tell someone you love them, and remember, keep smiling. So today we're going to dive into one of the most puzzling modern mistresses? This unique ability can show up in many forms, but what